Oh, somebody says hold up the book cover? Yeah. So let me tell you why this is the best book cover you've ever seen. Number one, the title is one word, and it's a new word, and it's one that's catchy. So the title works. Number two, this burnt orange always tests well. It catches your attention. So that's scientifically known. If you had a choice, use this color. You'll see there are a lot of, in fact, there are quite a few on my shelf that have some of this palette. Now, here's the other magic. You see these people in the bubbles? Makes you curious, doesn't it? Why are they in the bubble? What is the bubble? Is this a book about how to get out of the bubble, how to get in the bubble? Is it about Democrats? Is it about Republicans? Is it about all people? Is it about some people? Curiosity and books go together really well. I'm going to be flying out to New York City on the 3rd, so I guess that's Sunday. So on Sunday, I'll be flying out. You'll maybe hear from me on various radio, TV, podcasts, talking about my book, Loserthink. And I've got a feeling this might be my biggest book. I don't know yet. I don't want to jinx it. But there's something about this book that's so sticky because it addresses all of the arguments you see in your life and in social media and gives you another window into them and a technique for avoiding the worst arguments and thwarting the worst arguments when they're used against you. So I think it's going to be almost required reading for people who want to interact in the internet and don't want to look foolish. Because about the 10th time somebody says, well, that's mind reading, you're going to ask yourself, what book are they reading? You see this already on the internet, right? Mostly on my Twitter feed. People will say that somebody in the news is mind reading. And when you start seeing how much of the news is some stranger assuming what somebody else is thinking incorrectly, you can't unsee it. So that's one of the things that Loserthink is going to do. It's going to give you a frame and some words, some vocabulary, so it's really easy to spot the bad thinking techniques. It's going to make a difference. Somebody says, you cannot title a book Loser and expect it to sell. Well, you have your point is well made. Your point is well made. People do buy books because of who they are. So there's something about buying a book that matches your brand. You know, it's like books are kind of personal. So would somebody buy a book and sit there reading it on the airplane that has the word loser right in the word? And the answer is, we'll see. We'll see. Here's the thinking behind it. Yeah, somebody's ahead of me in the comments. If you had asked me years ago if there would ever be a series of books in which you're calling the buyer of the book a dummy or an idiot, would anybody think anybody would buy that? The Dummy's Guide to HTML, the Idiot's Guide to everything. Those are two of the biggest selling series of books in the world. And they literally insult the reader. The trick is, if you do it in sort of good humor and people understand, there's a function to the book and it brings attention to it and it makes it hard to forget, those are pluses. And Loserthink, because it's a new word, is kind of sticky. Let me ask you this. Having heard the new word Loserthink, would you ever forget it? Probably not. It's sticky, isn't it? And Loserthink, given that the book is about how to avoid it and how to call it out in other people, we'll see. So those of you who have pointed out that could be a violation of common branding form to put loser in the title, the risk is, and it's an intentional risk, one that I did knowingly, The risk I took is that it's sticky and it's provocative, and you won't be able to get it out of your head. So that's the play. All right. Well, some people like it. I also think it's the best cover I've ever done. It's also, I would go further. This is one of the best covers I've ever seen on a book. Honestly, so I've written. If you count the Dilber books, I think I've got something like 45 books in my career. 11 of them, or is this the 12th? I've lost count. This is the 11th or 12th book of the non-Dilbert type, where I got to design the cover without having to put Dilbert in it. And although sometimes I did. So this is the best one by far out of 45. But do this little experiment. If you find this book, then go to whatever category it's in, because it's in some of the bestseller categories, like political humor, I guess. And just look at the other book covers on the page. Just expand the page so you can see, all the book covers. It really jumps out. It really jumps out. And there's a lot of science. There's a lot of science behind this, by the way. Someday I'll talk about that. Somebody says, hold up the book cover. Yeah. So let me tell you why this is the best book cover you've ever seen. Number one, the title is one word, and it's a new word, and it's one that's catchy. So the title works. Number two, this burnt orange always tests well. It catches your attention. So that's scientifically known. If you had a choice, use this color. You'll see there are a lot of, in fact, there are quite a few on my shelf that have some of this palette. Now, here's the other magic. You see these people in the bubbles? Makes you curious, doesn't it? Why are they in the bubble? What is the bubble? Is this a book about how to get out of the bubble, how to get in the bubble? Is it about Democrats? Is it about Republicans? Is it about all people? Is it about some people? Curiosity and books go together really well. If you've ever read any of the Harry Potter books, probably most of you have, the author, I can never remember the author of the Harry Potter books, which is crazy because she's the most famous author in the world, J.K. Rowling. So J.K. Rowling is the best you might ever see of stoking your curiosity throughout the book. You'll see that a lot of the chapters end with there's a sound in the distance, or there's something happening that's unexplained at the end of every chapter. So you say, oh, I guess I'll have to read the next chapter to eventually get to the answer to what's happening at the end of this chapter. So the cover does the same thing. It makes you say, who's in the bubble, why are they in the bubble, what's the bubble about, what is Loserthink? So there's a great curiosity trigger built in. That's the technique.